So 3 years ago, we were together and you were telling me that you had this idea for this book project that was sort of a Harry Potter-esque kind of concept. And here we are 3 years later because this project has come to fruition. So congratulations. Tell us about it. And how did Kobe Bryant decide to do this?
Well, it was just, I just felt like I learned so much from the game. I was trying to figure out different creative ways to share those experiences, without coming across as being preachy. You know what I mean? So like things that I've learned from the game that I try to teach to my kids, for me to just come out and tell my kids what those lessons are, they don't listen to me. You got to figure out a creative way to package it up. This way they can kind of find those Easter eggs on their own. And that's when I started coming up with ideas, creative concepts and stories to be able to instill those life lessons in.
What's an example of a life lesson? Give me one huge life lesson.
For this book in particular, it's about handling fears. How do you handle those? Right? Like for these young men in the story, they have fears that they've consciously or subconsciously suppressed. And those fears manifest themselves in different ways, and we see it manifest through the game. So what they have to learn within the novel is to have the bravery and the courage to face those fears. And then they can decide what they want to do with them, right? But at least they have the power over their fear versus the other way around.
It's interesting because I've said many times, the courage it takes to play sports at the level you played it is the courage to take the risk of always being remembered for your worst moment. There are some players who will be remembered for their worst moment. That takes a special kind of courage, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's an acceptance too, though, right? You have to be able to accept things, and then you move on from the things. You don't necessarily combat them, right? You accept those things, you become at peace with those things, and then you can move on.
I want to talk about pressure because there's lots of people face a lot of different pressure in a lot of different ways. It feels to me like NBA stars right now feel as though they are under an enormous amount of pressure. They don't seem to be happy most of the time. And maybe it's because they are so public that we hear about it all of the time. But we've seen different incidents, whether it was Kevin Durant this year or Kyrie or others. When you were at the top of the mountain, when you were the biggest star in sports, were you happy?
Oh, of course, because I was playing a game I love. You know what I mean? The happiness comes from that, first and foremost. And then, obviously, you have frustrations. You have moments where you're happier than others, right? But when you're doing something that you love to do, the happiness is already there. Now, there's a certain determination and, frustration that comes along with the job. But ultimately, I believe that they love the game, so.
How do you perceive that, though, when you hear guys talking about all of the pressure? It feels like that has been magnified. I don't know if it is a function of social media, of the pervasive attention that they receive. Yeah. How do you perceive that?
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it, actually, because the opinions are there. You can see them. Whereas, when I started playing, many years ago, you'd have to wait till the next morning to get the newspaper and see what bad stuff people said about you. Now you go on social media and you get inundated with that pressure and criticism and all that sort of stuff. But still in all, it comes with the territory, right? You can't please everybody. All you can do is do the best you can and just accept it and move on with it.
How did you handle it? How did you handle criticism?
Exactly that way. You deal with it and you move on. I mean, the most important thing is the game. You can't lose sight of that. It's not what people think of you, right? But it's the game. Are you leading the team the right way? Are you doing the necessary things to study your craft to put your team in the best possible situation to be champions? That's the only thing that matters. Criticism is going to come and go, right? You can have a great game on Monday. Everybody loves you. Have a horrible game on Tuesday. You're the worst, right? It's going to be cyclical until you win a championship. And then everybody will calm down and love you for like 2 weeks. And then they'll say you can't repeat. That's just the way it is.
Okay, I've been dying to ask you this forever. So for 30 years, my job has been arguing, this guy's better than that guy, this guy's better than that guy, right? Like it's Kobe and it's Michael, and it's Michael and it's LeBron, and it's Magic and it's Larry, and it's Russell and it's Chamberlain.
The great debates.
All those debates.
Yeah.
As one of the people in those, as one of the people who's on the other side of that, how important is that to you, the way people perceive you relative to Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, LeBron James?
It's hard for people to believe, but I really don't care. I've moved on. So like you have a career, you do the best you can with the 20 years I was very fortunate to play, and then you shelf it. You're done. You move on to the next thing. So now I'm focused on these next 20 years, and so those debates are entertaining, I'm sure, and it's fun for people to engage in those. But for me personally, it doesn't matter.
So when everyone gets into is LeBron better than Kobe, whatever it is, and you hear it, you can't not hear it. You have like no reaction.
Sure. No, I think the best way to explain it is I typically do not engage in things that I cannot definitively win. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's argument. Argue for what?
There is that one moment I remember I don't remember exactly where it was, but someone was saying something to you in an arena, and you held up 5 fingers, which suggested to me that was one of your closing arguments, right?
Well,
you got 5 of these, and not too many other people do.
People want to know, about criticism, for example. How do you deal with that? And people try to downplay your career in some shape, form, or fashion. And I just hold up 5 because the most important thing that we do, the goal is to win championships. This is what we're here for.
People are always talking about the next so-and-so. Who's going to be the next Kobe Bryant? When you watch the NBA now, who reminds you of you?
There's a lot of players that have that engine, that motor. Russell's certainly one of them, and James has kicked it into high gear, and Kyrie, and even the younger. It feels weird to say younger guys than like James Harden and Kyrie Irving because they're still young to me. But you got the Jason Tatums of the world, Donovan Mitchells of the world. I mean, the NBA is in great hands.
And the word that will always be associated with you is Mamba, the Mamba mentality. And it feels that that's a moving target. Like the Mamba mentality can mean so many different things. I see you post Mamba mentality stuff all the time. As we sit here, what does Mamba mentality mean? Well,
really it's just about curiosity. Right? When you have a curiosity, you have a thirst to learn and to get better. And that's at the foundation of everything, is asking why. Right? Why did this move work? Why does this particular tactic work? And that curiosity, how do you train better? How do you eat better? From curiosity, everything else is built upon that.
One other thing on this. You once upon a time were the most famous high school basketball player ever to come to the NBA. And then by the time LeBron came to the NBA, there was all of this intention was magnified. Now Zion Williamson is in the middle of something I can't even fathom being him at the age of 18 or 19, which he is. What advice do you have for someone like him who right now is as famous as any person in sports in America at that age?
Just focus on the game. It seems very, very simple, but that's the challenge, right? You have people pulling you from different directions. You have different requests and opportunities, and that's fine, but you got to lock in and focus on the most important thing, which is the game.
Everyone will yell at me if I don't ask you this. So everyone talks about Golden State now. The Warriors, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Pick your best team. You and Shaq, whatever year you guys, in your mind, were at your best.
We're debating.
In a 7-game series, you guys against the Warriors, who wins?
Well, yeah, we would win. That's what I would say.
What are they going to do with Shaq, right? I mean, now they have Boogie Cousins, so I mean, he might have been able to do something.
Well, to give you like a real tactical answer about it, it's really just a matter of who can impose whose will, right? And style of play. Right? Do we do a good job moving the ball, getting in the open areas and slowing the game down, or will Golden State control the tempo and control their pace with their shooting and their ball movement? So to be completely honest, it's hard to really tell who would win. I like our chances. Shaq was a handful, man, and you can't forget that he could run the floor like a guard. Right, he moved like a guard, which is pretty scary.
And the game is so different now, too. Just analytics have played such a huge role in that they've been a big part of it. Do you like it? All the threes, all the reliance on analytics, it's threes and it's layups and it's free throws. Do you enjoy it?
I think it has a place in the game. I don't think it gives the full answer of understanding why things happen, right, and how to create momentum. I mean, the game really is about momentum and who can control momentum, more so than numbers. Right? There's the emotion of the game, of who can dictate tempo and pace. Right? Those things are the most important because those actually win games. Numbers look good, right, and it can kind of tell you a story. Right? But the true story lies in the tempo and the pacing of the game.
Let's talk about your old team, the Lakers. It's been obviously a difficult season for them. How did it compare to what you expected? LeBron comes first year. What has this season been relative to whatever you expected it to be?
Well, yeah, I think they got, it was unfortunate because they got hit with so many injuries in rapid succession when they were rolling. I mean, they were playing very well, I think, exceeding people's expectations. And then they got hit with all these injuries, kind of set them back, knocked them off kilter a little bit, and it's hard to reboot that. And so now, they're caught in that rut. But next year should be better.
And so what, if you were to give advice to Magic Johnson, for example, what would it be?
Me give advice to Magic?
Yes.
Well,
he'd listen to you.
Well, I think it's just a matter of being patient, right? And obviously, they'll make smart decisions. You have opportunities, pieces that you can trade, assets and things of that sort. Or you can stay with the young guys who are extremely talented and have great upside and let them develop. But, you got, either direction you go should be a good direction.
And how about LeBron? If he were to ask you for some advice, as a guy who has been the face of the Lakers yourself for such a long time, what would you advise him?
No, you just got to keep pushing, right? I mean, seasons like this are what make the championships worth it. You know what I mean? You just got to stay with it. It'll be fine.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about is the biggest storyline of the entire NBA season now, it feels like, is the upcoming offseason. There's all this talk about free. Where's this guy going to go? Where's that?
I hear it's going to be an entertaining offseason.
Look, I'm not taking off the first week of July. I'll tell you that. What do you think? All the player movement, all the guys coming together. You played your whole career in Los Angeles through the good years and the bad years. A guy like Dirk, it almost feels like this is the end of that time. Does it diminish it in any way when these guys go from one place to another, team up to try and win?
I don't think it diminishes it because everybody's doing it. So you wind up having a collection of teams that are competing against each other. You have all these super teams competing against each other. So it makes for good competition. It's certainly compelling as a fan. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's different. I remember calling Dirk back when he was a free agent, and I called him. I said, Dirk, listen, I know you're not leaving Dallas. I get it, but I got to make the call. What do you think? He says, yeah, man, you're right, bro. I'm a lifer like you, man. We don't leave. And so it's just a different philosophy about it.
But looking back on it now, like, of all the things that you treasure about your career, where on that list is you played your whole career for one team?
It's at the top. You understand, the Lakers were my favorite team growing up, by far, right? And so to play with one franchise, and also it's a two-way street, right? You can have an athlete that wants to be with one organization, but if the organization doesn't have that loyalty in return, right, then you have that fraction, that separation. So I was very fortunate.
The last thing is I have to let you go. You've climbed this mountain. Again, 3 years ago you told me about this book project, and here you are. Congratulations. What is the next mountain? You have so many, you have your hands in so many different things. You've won since last I saw you, you won an Oscar for crying out loud. What's next? What is the next mountain for Kobe Bryant?
We have more stories coming. So this is the first. Right, the Wizenard Series, and we have another novel that's coming out in September, another one that's coming out in November. So, this is the beginning of us launching our publishing business that will then turn into animated features and Broadway musicals and things of that sort. So we're working, man.
It's great to see you. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Thank you very much for doing this.
Got it, man.
Kobe Bryant, everybody. How about that?